This is my review of the second anime, the episode of the Bleach anime. So the first difference is there's no weird nightmare. We just open with opening and then straight up to Ichigo's father waking him up by kicking at him. He of course slams him on the ground. And we get the whole thing about like a truck hit our house and stuff. It's pretty much the same shit. And then we're off to a really bad start here where we're just introduced to Orihime and Tatsuki walking through the hallway as though we already knew them. If the camera wasn't following them, we wouldn't be able to tell they were even like important characters. In the manga, we see Orihime daydreaming and it introduces us to her personality, and here it's just they're walking and talking, and it's just very mundane, a lot more boring, less lively. I feel like they could have just kept this the same. I don't know why they changed it. And then as they're walking, Orihime just bumps into Ichigo, and he's just kind of like, oh, anyway. He's kind of an ass, and it's just weird. It's so much less interesting. And the other one, Tatsuki's sitting there talking to Orihime, and Ichigo hits her in the back of the head with a bag. You know, kind of showing us their relationship and stuff. And here it's just weird and uninspired. I just thought this sucked as a way to be introduced to these characters. And they kind of talk, and Tatsuki berates him for bumping into Orihime and not apologizing, so he apologizes. And you get your first indication that Orihime has feelings for Ichigo because she's kind of freaks out that he gets close to her. And then we're just introduced to Ichigo's entire group of friends. In the manga, it was just the friend with dark hair, but here there's him, there's Keigo, and there's fucking Sato Chad right there. It's just like, what the fuck? It's bizarre how different this is. And then Rukia just walks up and introduces herself to him, and it's a lot more mundane. Once again, very boring and sucks. In the manga, she's like introduced and it's this big shocking revelation. This, she just walks up behind him. Still the hand scene, but it isn't done as clever. I didn't understand this. The music is fun, but that's the only thing that I thought was good. They go up to the roof again. She puts on the glove, knocks him out. It's pretty much 1-to-1 once they get to the roof. And they walk. There's less dialogue between them when Ichigo is going to go save the kid. In the manga, Rukia says a bunch of shit to him. In this, she doesn't say nearly as much. And Ichigo cuts off 2 legs, and I believe in the manga he only cut off 1 leg. Doesn't make too big a difference. The hollow falls down. Obviously, it retreats into Wakamundo because that's just a thing that the anime loves to do, is that hollows retreat into Wakamundo every time they're injured for some reason. And then we get the guitar OST, which is one of my favorite OSTs. Ichigo obviously kills the hollow pretty much 1-to-1, but then he performs a console on the soul, which I thought was a really good addition, and it looks good. That's the first thing I can say that they did better than the manga. And then we have a big change. Now, I haven't read manga chapters 4 and 5, so maybe they jump back and kind of do all this, but I don't know. But we cut to Orihime's brother floating outside the room and watching her. And she closes the blinds to her window, and he kind of like gets sad, and then there's 2 hollows behind him. They grab him with these tentacles that they grow and drag him to Wakamundo. And then Grand Fisher, who's going to be a villain later on, comes up behind him and basically orders the hollows to turn him into a hollow. And so they dogpile him and do something, and then they leave him, and he just grows the mask and he transforms into hollow. This is a through thing throughout this first arc in the anime. It's like they thought Grand Fisher was going to be the end-all villain, that he was some evil mastermind going after Ichigo and stuff. It's not the case at all, but they really, I think, thought that that was going to be what was going to happen. It is cool, though, to see how someone turns into a hollow, and also it's a nice touch seeing that he has 2 sets of teeth. In the manga, I think he just had the one. But with him, and I think a few other times, you see the hollows with 2 sets of teeth to remember that this is a mask over what is their actual, like, face. And then we get a very different scene here with the whole meeting with Orihime. I didn't like it as much because they aren't training in a baseball field. They're just walking and talking, and then they hear Orihime almost get hit by a car, and she's just falling down. And they run up to her and ask her if she's okay. Ruki obviously inspects the bruise. The bruise is drawn a lot more to look like a big claw hand mark. So that's a nice bit of foreshadowing for what's going to be the revelation here later. But they, I think they really should have kept the training scene, because Ichigo's not, he knows how to fight like delinquents, but he doesn't know how to swing a sword and fight hollows and shit. So him practicing swinging like he was in the manga, I think, is an important thing to show that he is learning in his spare time how to actually fight with a sword and stuff, and how to fight hollows. Because otherwise he just picks up a sword and starts swinging it, and he just gets lucky and beats them, and it's just like, there's no work behind it, no effort, and it just feels cheap. So I don't like that they didn't have him training here. A lot more boring scene, like I've been saying. But as I said, they are building suspense and foreshadowing for her brother's revelation later. The changes they've been doing with it, while the introductions to Ruki and stuff are bad, the changes to Orihime's brother is a lot better. So Ruki asks Ichigo still about Orihime, if she had anyone close to her, and he talks about her brother dying, but they changed this entirely to saying that they were treating her brother and he died while they were treating him in their hospital. And once again, they have like a clinic, like a pharmacy, medical clinic. It's not a hospital at all. They can't treat someone who's been hit by a car. Fundamental misunderstanding by the anime staff once again. In the manga, they were just caring for him until an ambulance arrived to get him to the hospital. But here, they're mistakenly thinking that they were able to treat him and that they've run a hospital, and they don't. It's literally a clinic run in their fucking house. So I thought that was just ridiculous. And once again, they have Ichigo saying, oh, well, my powers only awakened recently. And no, they didn't, because the whole thing with Grand Fisher later on and his mother is that he saw a spirit. So he's always had these powers. How did they make such a fundamental misunderstanding? They clearly know about Grand Fisher, which means that at this point he'd been introduced in the manga. So how are they making these fundamental misunderstandings? I don't get it. But then we cut away to Tatsuki arriving at Orihime's house. They expanded upon the Orihime-Tatsuki scenes, which I appreciate. That's good. That gives us more of a look as to the whole picture of what's going on. Gives us more of an insight into their relationship and stuff. And then, as I was talking about expanding out and stuff, they added a lot more to the fight between the Hollow and Ichigo, which I thought was really nice. He comes out and he attacks at Ichigo. Ichigo dodges and cuts his arm. But he's like being really sloppy and stuff. I think he like slashes and misses it. And then he goes up and he tries to strike it in the head, and his sword just drags into the ceiling. And so then he just hits its mask, and he does not have the strength to go through it. And it just ends up grabbing the sword. And in the manga, he just slashes right through it because he's been training his swing. But since in the anime he hasn't been shown training his swing, I think they actually intentionally made him look a lot more sloppy than he was in the manga. They made it seem like more of a struggle, like he really still doesn't know what he's doing. Which I appreciate. That makes it okay that he didn't do training because he's doing really poor here and he couldn't slash through its mask. And then they have the mask kind of cracks and it breaks a little bit. And Ichigo sees its face, and then it retreats back into Wakamundo, and we see it kind of screaming and stuff, and then the mask regenerates over its face. And then Rukia is the one to try to run out and be like, we have to pursue the hollow, and then Ichigo says, wait. What are hollows? He kind of asks her what hollows are and stuff, and basically says that was Orihime's brother. Which is better. Ichigo should be the one to recognize that it's her brother, because the manga reveal was just, that was Orihime's brother. And just out of the blue, out of nowhere, there's been no, like, build-up. But since Ichigo had seen him, of course, he might recognize him. Now, not like this, but I'm not saying it's perfect. It's so ridiculous that he would recognize him just by, like, the corner of his face. But it's better than Rukia just being like, yeah, that's Orihime's brother. Let's go. Like, that's stupid. And they have like some really somber music, and it just the fucking music is amazing. I love the music so much. And then we see Tatsuki and Orihime kind of hanging out, and there's a loud noise. The bear, I think, rips and falls off the thing, and then he's outside. Her brother is. So I know I criticize this episode a lot, but honestly I think the anime's version of this was better. Just because Ichigo should be the one to recognize Orihime's brother. He's shown being a little less competent. They added the Tatsuki, Orihime stuff. They drew the bruise as a claw. They just did a lot more foreshadowing and stuff. Not everything is better, but I think what the anime did right is better and outweighs what they did wrong here. So yeah, I think that the anime version of this was better than the manga. That's from our review for episode 2.